Good good evening. Sorry, good afternoon. Looks like we are meeting at a different time. Good afternoon, everyone, to day 4 of proactive cyber defense engineering using Python Cyber Rakshak beginner course. We'll be starting in about 2 to 3 more minutes. We'll start at 12:05. So I'm going to give all the students a few minutes to join. Please make sure to tell your friends who are doing this course with us to join us on YouTube. Please make sure to like the stream and subscribe to our channel. Good afternoon, everyone. It's 12:05 now. We'll start with the day 4 of our session. Okay. Yes, I can see a lot of you have done the homework. That's great. You have to submit the homework in the evening session, not now. Okay. So the session right now is going to be around 1 to 1.5 hour long. So in the evening session around 6, we'll give you guys a link where you'll have to fill in basic information and then upload a file. Okay, that's when you want to. That's when you want to go ahead and do the upload. Okay. I guess my audio should be pretty clear right now. Perfect. So make sure that you complete the homework given yesterday. If you do not know what the homework was yesterday, please go ahead, have a look at the previous live stream, and make sure to follow the chat on the group. Make sure to keep your ears open. Okay, if you follow the stream, this issue will not happen. I repeat, please follow our streams so that you are up to date on what work is being given. Okay, do not expect me to announce it more than 2-3 times. And it's also being shared on the Telegram group, so make sure that you're there on the Telegram group as well. With that, let's jump right in. So I'm going to share my screen now. There we go. My screen should now be visible. Perfect. Exactly. So what we're going to go with today is, before I go into the PPT and we discuss the PPT today, I'm going to spend some time talking about what loops really mean in terms of logic. Okay, so the first thing that you need to know from from a programming perspective about loops is that you might need to do some work exactly the same way over and over again in real life, right? So to give you guys an example, washing your clothes, right? You know for a fact that a certain set of wool clothes require you to use a certain detergent, and they need to be washed manually, right? Once you know that, every 3 days, during the winter, you're going to have to wash those wool clothes exactly the same way. You cannot change the way you're washing the clothes even a single time. It has to be exactly the same way. Otherwise, you're going to, ruin those clothes, right? Similarly, say, something that cannot be changed. For example, driving a car, right? Once you know what the second gear is, you're not going to, make a custom gear, on your car and then try to switch to that, right? There are certain rules and you follow those rules in loop. So loop actually has two definitions here. One is the definition of a repetitive work that you give it, and the second definition is some rules that you are bound to follow again and again and again and again. Okay, so some people have been saying that there were issues with my voice. I suppose it should be much clearer now. Okay, I've shared my voice again. If you're having issues with my audio still on YouTube, please make sure to leave a comment and have it. Okay. Also, some people are saying that they're having problems in Telegram. See, if you are having issues with Telegram, it's your problem. Okay, Telegram is a platform used by a few 100 million users, and they don't have any issues whatsoever on Telegram. So you are probably the odd one out. If you're being blocked by Telegram, then it's again an issue on your end. If you are being blocked by the group settings, that's either because you've been spamming the group too much, so our bot has blocked you, or that you've been copy pasting the same message again and again and again, which is technically just inappropriate texting or spam. Or in many cases, we have also banned some people who do crosstalk. So if you've been banned on Telegram and you're unable to see the latest chat, that's probably your fault. Okay, because most of the stuff we do like this is automated. We have two bot accounts. So if an issue has come up like so, I'm sorry, but we really can. Moving on. Moving on, we'll be looking at a few examples of the loop structures in Python. Okay. Now, I want everyone to type this part of the code alongside me. Okay. I don't want to be the only one doing this. So I want all of you to have your VS Code open, your Python installed and ready to go, and you're going to follow me. Okay. And please don't spam the group chat. You'll force me to block you all. Okay. So I can see who is spamming what. So please don't do that. I have the entire control of the live chat right now. So I'm going to print some simple code right now. Okay. So what I'm going to do is say that there is this print statement, right? which says hello, comma, Cybervidyapeeth, right? A very simple hello statement. Once we execute it, after a few seconds, it executes. I'll execute it again so that the error is not there. And there we go. We can see hello Cybervidyapeeth perfectly working. Okay. So what if I wanted to print the statement 5 times? Say that was my task. I had to execute this print statement, this print line 5 times. Okay. What would you do? And that is exactly where loop comes into play. As I said, loop is about doing something again and again and again, right? And this is exactly where loops can help. So I'm going to keep this line up here, but I'm going to comment it out. I use CTRL/ to comment it out. Then I'll go to the second or third line. I'll go down a few lines and I'll create a variable called counter, which will be equal to the number 0. Okay. Just below that, I'm going to type while. So again, focus on the English. While counter is smaller than 5. Okay, I'm making some interesting, changes to this code from my notes. So I'm going to do counter equals counter plus 1. Simply increase the counter. You could also do something like counter plus equals to 1. Same thing. And then I'm going to just copy this print command right up here. And I'm going to paste that out. I'm going to save the file. And before I run this, I want to know how many times, I repeat, how many times the output is going to be printed. Okay, some people are telling me that, you can just multiply the statement by the number 5 and that would actually print the statement 5 times. You are right, but you are also wrong. Okay. That is actually Python's inherent way of generating a certain text a few times, but that's not pure looping. Okay, I'm trying to show you looping here. Okay, I want to execute the same line of code again and again, not just take the same text and print it 5 times. There's a difference. Okay, so some people are saying 5, some are saying 4, some are saying 6. Let's run the code and see what happens, and let's count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We got the output 5 times. So let's try to understand what has happened here. Initially the counter was 0, right? So this is a variable. That much we know for a fact, right? That this is a variable, right? Now what you want to do with with the variable, what do you want to do? You want to do while. So while is a special statement. Okay, just like print, just like input, just like pow, right? This is a special statement. After which, just like if else, okay? While is a special statement. It's a keyword in Python. After which, inside brackets, I give it a statement. I say while counter is less than 5. So until counter is less than 5, counter will be, increase the counter by whatever the value is in counter by +1, and then print hello cyber. Sounds simple, right? So let's try tracing the program. So the way I like to do the dry run for loops is I'm going to have a few lines of comments. I'm going to try to make a pseudo table here. Okay. And the way I'm going to do it is counter initially is 0. Okay. So initially when the Python comes to line 3, counter is 0 because we defined it as so. Okay. After that, the condition gets checked. So I'm going to say ch1 or check 1. What is the check? This condition gets checked. Okay, happens. Counter is less than 5. So we go inside to this part of the code inside the loop, and we increase the value of counter by 1. So once we increase the, okay, some people are saying please increase the font size. Do you guys need me to increase the font size more? Is this not visible? Okay, I'll increase the font size by maybe 2 more points. Okay, just give me 1 second. That is much better because I don't want you guys to miss anything. So I'll increase the font size just a little bit. If you have such issues, please make sure to inform me. Okay, I don't want you guys to not be able to see the code that I'm doing. Okay, now you guys should be able to see it much more clearly. Is it visible now? Perfect. So moving on, some people are asking me if the variable name, the identifier name counter can be something else. Yes, it can be. For all the food fans out there, you could literally have variable called pizza. It would not matter. Okay, it's just that it is programming discipline, and this has been the case for last 25 plus years, that whenever you're making a loop program, you always have a counter variable if you need to have one. So because this is exactly what this variable is doing, right? It's counting from 0 to 1, 1 to 2, 2 to 3, 3 to 4, 4 to 5, right? So it's counting. So because this variable is counting, we call it counter variable. Okay, but you can call it anything you like. As I said, you could call it burger, pizza, pani puri, whatever, doesn't matter. Okay, all that matters is your code should be clean and easy to understand 7-8 months later. 7-8 months later, when you come to this code, it should not be the case that you have written the variable name pizza and you don't understand what pizza means. Okay, so that is exactly why we are using naming schemes that are easier to understand for everyone. So counter is equal to 0, right? The check 1 happens, ch1 happens, then the value of counter is increased 0 plus 1. So I'm just going to say 0 plus 1, which actually means 1, and then the first print statement comes. Now the value of counter is actually 1, right? And the check 2 happens, and we pass the check this time also. Counter is less than 5 is true even here, because of which 1 plus 1 equals 2 gets executed, and we print for the second time. So then again, C is now 2. So we'll do the third check, and we'll do 2 plus 1 equals 3, and we'll print for the third time, and then we'll do C equals, now we know that counter is 3, so we'll do 3 comma, again another check will happen in the while loop, and again you realize that, hey, isn't the value still less than 5? Yes, so keep going. So we'll do 3 plus 1 again run the same code. Okay, remember, you are looping, you're running the code again and again and again and again. Okay, so we'll print for the fourth time, and again, C is now 4 comma, right? So ch so check 5 comma, and 4 plus 1 equals 5. So now the value is 5. Okay, and we'll have the print for the fifth time. So next time when C is now 5, the check 6 is going to fail. This is where the while loop is going to be all like, oh my God, stop. Okay. Something's wrong. We can't go ahead because this condition right here failed the sixth time. This is an important concept. Okay. So keep your, eyes and ears open and just have a look at the screen. Remember, then when you're using less than logic, whatever number you give, plus one of that. So if say the number is n plus one tries are done by the loop before the loop stops. So the code, the while code actually got executed 6 times, not 5 times. Okay. You need to actually do this manually on paper. Okay. And I will actually take tests where I'm asking you guys to manually trace out loops. Okay. So you need to make logic like this and trace out the loops for me. Okay. Because this really helps with building your own logic. Okay. So this is how we got 5 outputs of Cybervidyapeeth. Now, what will happen if I come here, okay, just where the condition is, and add a equals to there, so less than equals to, and I save the file. How many outputs will I get now? You guys have 1 minute and 30 seconds to reply. Okay, so I can see that the majority of you all have said 6, but I can still see some 5s. Okay, so let me run the code and let's see who is right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Right? So it's for the 6 people, not the 5 people. Sorry to say that. So what actually happened with just a 1 equals to what happened? So let's trace again. So the trace is basically going to be same. The only issue is at the 6th time also the check is going to pass this time around, because the condition is the value of the counter variable can be less than or equal to 5. And in this case, situation, in check 6, it is equal to 5. So the check is still going to pass the 6th time. And we are going to do 5 plus 1 equals 6. And then we are going to print it a 6th time. And then when you do C equals 6 and you try to do the 7th check, this is where the failure happens. So this is exactly why, just by changing, one small thing, I was able to increase the output by 1. Okay. So if you want to get the same number of output as the, as n plus 1, the number you've put, always use less than equal to. If you want to get the same number of output as you've given n and not n plus 1, then use the less than or greater than sign. Okay. So with that tracing out of the way, let me quickly just remove all that code. And now I'm going to show you an interesting, comparison between structures. So you know that if, say you have some condition, say if true, something happens here. I'm just going to use the command pass. If you don't know what pass means, I'll explain in just a sec. And then I'm going to do else pass. So this is basically useless code right here, but still, okay, bear with me. And then I'm going to do something. I'm going to do while, and I'm going to have a counter. So I'm going to do counter equals 0. While inside brackets, I want counter less than 5. Then what I want to do is I want to do counter plus equals to 1. So I want to increase it by 1 every time this part of the code runs, and I want to print hello, comma, cyber vidya exclamation mark. Okay, but here's where the interesting things comes into play. I'm going to have a else statement here, which says, and I quote, print hello, comma, from else block of code. Okay, I'm going to save this part and I'm going to run this program. Let me clear everything so that it's easier for all of you to see. So now something interesting has happened. If you look at the if else statement, I've used a special word here called pass. So this is a keyword in Python, right? Which basically means to just go ahead, to just, move on, just keep going. So, you can also say something like keep going, don't stop. There's nothing to execute here. Just move on. That is why I said that these two, 2-3 lines, these 4 lines of code right here, they're basically useless. Then, even though they are getting executed, there's no point to them, right? But what I wanted to show you was, just like there's an if else statement, you can also have a while else in Python. Now, this is not true for every programming language. Okay, there are many old programming languages that don't have while else structures, but here in Python you do have while else structures. Okay, so say that if the while condition fails and the counter value gets bigger than 5, what does that do? So instead of breaking out of the while, you go to the else and then you print this message, and exactly that has happened here. Notice you have 5 output here, and then you have the output of the else statement, right? So this is what I like to call error handling, the very bare bones. You're seeing what is soon going to become error handling and exception handling. Okay, so what happened was, here your program would have just exited. Okay, if this part of the code didn't exist, your program would have just stopped. If I save the program and I execute it, after printing the 5th line of code, the program would have just stopped. But now that is not the case, because as we can clearly see here, once we, okay, what did I miss? Section, save the file. Yeah, perfect. It was some PowerShell issue. Not an issue with Python, so we don't really care. Okay, so hello from the else block of code, right? So this block gets executed when the while trips. So whenever the while is false, it gets executed. So for example, say that I do while false. Can somebody tell me what the output is going to be here? Difference between pass and continue. Continue continues to the next block of code. Pass just okay. I'll go into it. You'll need to see the difference, okay? Because in loops we'll be looking at break, continue, pass, all three. So for now, just think of pass as riffraff code that's never going to run. And actually, VS Code is so smart. It knows that the else code is never going to run. So it has grayed out the color for the else code. Okay, it tells me that, hey, the else is never even going to be seen by the Python system. Okay, so now come down and tell me what is going to be the output here. Hello from else block of the code. Okay, let's run that and see it. There we go. You guys are right. So what you need to understand is that loops, the conditions they take are actually resolving to only one of two things. Okay, either true or false. So I could actually go ahead and type here just true, save the file and run, and I'll get infinite loop. This is an infinite code execution. Okay, as you can see, infinitely my system is printing hello cybervidyapeeth, hello cybervidyapeeth, hello cybervidyapeeth. It's just going on and on and on and on and on, right? No, pass is not the same as continue. Okay, there are subtle differences. We'll come into it later. So let me stop the program execution. That's completely fine. The error that was thrown was keyboard interrupt, which is Control C. That's how I stopped the part of the code. I did Control C. Okay, give me one sec. Give me one sec. It looks like some people are having some issues. I'll try to solve them. Okay, so it looks like some people are spamming the chat. Please don't do that. We'll be forced to block you if you do that. Moving on. So we can see that I instantiated a keyboard interrupt by pressing the key combination CTRL-C, which actually just kills the program, the terminal program. You know, we had a huge output, as you can see. I'm trying to scroll up, but the output is so huge that I'm unable to scroll towards it. So now, what I want to show you guys next is a little interesting, okay? And that is going to be, let me just go ahead and remove all this, save this, and remove this as well. So now I'm going to teach you guys traditional loops, okay? So for loop is a traditional loop that you'll find pretty much in every programming language, right from C to Java to Python. Almost every language has it. So I'm just going to do something like n equals to, let's make it 5. Then I'm going to say for. So for is again a special statement, okay? Just like while, it's a special keyword, not a statement. Special keyword. So I'm going to do for I in range. Again, range is a special word, just like print input. 0, comma n. I'll explain to you what it means in just a second. Print I. Save. First of all, just by looking at this code, how many people can tell me what the output is going to be? Terminal window is how is it cleared? Okay, you can clear the terminal window by pressing Control L. I repeat, you can clear the terminal window by pressing Control L. Okay. Okay, so I can see that people are putting in 1 2 3 4 5 0 1 2 3 4 5. So let's run it and find it out, right? So it's going to run 0. Why? Because initially, you know, when you instantiate a variable like so, so I is a variable here actually. It's going to start with 0 and go to n. Okay, and you can also see that we are giving it a range of 0 to n. That is what this range does. If you look at its documentation, it reads that range returns an object that produces a sequence of integers starting from start to stop, where the start is inclusive and the stop is exclusive by step. So step by step. Okay. So what does inclusive exclusive means is that 0 is always included and the true value of n is always excluded. So you can note that here, you know, you are printing it 5 times, but the fifth value of n is not being printed. An example of this logic could be, say that I want the number to be 1 to 5. I can actually change the logic here and try to run the code again. And notice what happens. We still get the output till 4. If I increase this to say 3, okay, and try to run the code again, we get 3 4. But notice that the topmost value is fixed. Okay, it only changes if I increase n. So if I increase n, then you will see 5 as well, but not 6. So the value of n you won't see, you will see n minus 1. Okay, so the way you can work with this is, let me put a 0 here. And what I'm going to do now is run the code. So we know this is the output. So I want to print 5 here also. We have two options. I increase n by 1, either here, or how a lot of programmers do it is that they don't increase n there, they instead increase it here. So I'm going to do n plus 1 here and run the code. And notice now we are getting 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, if you're like me and you have an issue with 0 being a counting number, you can just type 1 here. Okay. And then you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Normal counting numbers, as we say. And before I move ahead and talk about 0 and 1 and starting loop logic from 0 and 1 and how they're different, I want to know something. You know what? I'm going to stop sharing my screen. We are not moving ahead until you guys answer some basic questions of mine today. And the question is, we know in mathematics, 0 is not a counting number. You know, there are no 0 pizzas, there are no 0 laptops, there are no 0 cold drinks, you know, there are no 0 slippers, there are no 0 chairs. Okay, remember that? There is no video because I've stopped the video. Just hear to my voice. Okay, there are no 0 things. 0 means nothing, right? In the real world, at least. But in the world of computers, what does 0 mean? I repeat, what does 0 mean? It is a digit in binary. Maybe, but for now, don't think about binary, okay? I don't want you to think in binary logic. I want you to think like so. 0 is a normal number, just like how you have been writing it in paper for God knows how many years. Some people are writing false. 0 means on or off, okay? Interesting logic you all are giving, and a lot of it is actually true. But 0 is not just a number, and even if it's a number, it's not used to count, and that is where you need to clear your logic. Okay, see, this is the issue a lot of programmers have. Numbers in computers are not used to count. Again, I want you guys to think of this as a mantra. Okay, when you're sleeping, you need to do charan of this mantra. Okay, when you're going to sleep today, numbers in computers are not used to count. I repeat, numbers in computers are not used to count, even if I'm using them to count. Numbers in computers are used to name things. I repeat, hear me again. Numbers in computers are not used to count. Instead, they're used to name things in computers. So say that you have created a list or an array of things. When I say array, I'm just telling you to place 7 numbers together. Okay, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Just put 7 numbers in a straight line. Or put pizza, P-I-Z-Z-A, all letters in a straight line, right? In computers, the P, the first letter of the word pizza, is always going to be 0. Okay? Why? Is it because P in pizza is the starting? No, it's not. What it means is that, no, numbers are not used for indexing. See, this is exactly where you guys are wrong. Indexing is a high level concept. When you talk about the bare bones silicon chip in your system right now, okay, when you talk about the processor does not understand the difference, okay? If you tell your processor, okay, I want to do indexing, okay, the processor is just going to give you a bunch of system interrupts and errors. It's not going to understand anything. What you need to understand is, at the lowest level in your computer, numbers are used to name things and not count things. Indexing basically means counting, okay? Let me make this clear again. Naming is different, indexing and counting are different things. When you name something, say that five of you are standing in front of me. Okay. The first person is zeroth person, second person is first person, third person is second person, and so on and so forth. Once I say this, I'm using these digits 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 to name you. This is the most important concept in computers you will ever learn, because you have to read like 10 books to get this in your head, that numbers are used to name things in computers, not count. The day you have made this sentence a part of your life, you have mastered half the programming. Because when you're dealing with C, assembly, chip level programming, extremely deep programming, and you are trying to truly understand computers, you will realize that numbers are used to name areas of your computer, and not just memory. I can see some people are saying, memory addresses. No, not just memory. There are other types of addresses on the dataverse. When you guys, if you guys ever do a systems programming course with us, then I'll go into that. That's a much more advanced topic for another day. But just remember that numbers are used to name things in computer. Okay, that is why computers always start with 0. I repeat, that is why computers always start with 0. Okay, so keep that in mind. As long as you are remembering the sentence I just told, you are going to have a fantastic mind. So with those thoughts in mind, I am going to give me 1 second. Yeah. So I am going to show you guys. Okay, so my screen is not shared. Give me a second. My screen should be shared now. Perfect. So now that we know that counting in computers starts at 0. Okay. Technically not counting, naming in computer starts at 0. So say that I have PIZZA. Now say that P is the 0th number, I is the 1st number, 2 is the 3rd number, 5th number, right? So these are not the indexes, okay? This is the counter value or the built-in system value. The index for these is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, because index means counting. So the index is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But when you have a counter variable running, the counter is going to go like 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And this is a logic a lot of people don't understand. And if you're studying a much more archaic language like C, or something a little bit modern like Java, or something postmodern like Python, right? This logic is always going to come up. You need to make sure that you have your variables clear. Okay. Now in Python, you might not need the counter or the index. You might only need one, and Python may take care of the other things. Okay. I am not teaching you arrays yet. Okay, so don't think into arrays right now. I'm just telling you, imagine that I divide the word into, its letters, and then I give, I loop through each letter. Okay, I loop through each letter. Hear me out. I divide a word into letters and I loop through each letter. How would my counter and my index look? So that is what I'm trying to visualize for you guys here. Okay. So now what I want you guys to do is, I'm going to stop here. I'm going to give, take like around a 10 to 12-minute break. We'll come back at 1. During that time, all I want you guys to do is search, Google more about this topic, that numbers are used to name things in computers. This is going to be the statement that you research in these next 15 minutes. Okay. So take some time, wash your faces, Google this statement, come back to me with some interesting examples of these statements, and then at 1, I will be teaching you guys some more additional things. Okay. And if there's any other doubts, just put them in the chat. I'm of course looking at the chat, so when I come back, I'll be explaining all the things and all the questions, whatever I can answer in the best of my capability, I'll be answering those as well. Okay. So I'm going to pin a comment in the live chat so that you guys are able to why array indexing always starts from 0? That is for you guys to find out. I just told you, Google it up. Okay. First question, okay, you're asking the wrong question. See, what you need to understand is the question you're asking is wrong. You're jumping to arrays. Forget arrays. Forget Python. Forget C. Forget everything. A normal CPU only understands bits and bytes. I'm asking you, Google, why numbers are used to name things in computers. Simple statement I've given you. Okay. Google, figure out why and get back to me. See you guys in about 10 to 12 minutes at 1 p.m. I'm back, students. I have been seeing your chat. First of all, those who have been copy pasting chat, I'm going to be blocking you guys very soon. Okay, your names have been taken a note of. And two, good job. I'm proud to say you guys, some of you have gotten the answer, which is fantastic because it took me years to understand this. So here's what you need to understand. Okay, and there is just literally just one point you need to catch. If you catch that point, you basically understand how computers work. Numbers are the easiest relevant names. This was said by Utsav Kumar. Okay, numbers are the easiest relevant names, and because computers can only understand binary sequence of binary digits, right? I repeat, computers can only understand sequence of binary digits. It makes sense, right? That computers use numbers to count things or sequence of numbers to count things. Okay. Just give me 1 second. I'll share my screen and we'll be jumping right back to what we were doing. So we're back in the code editor, and I'm going to clean the editor and the terminal for the next example. So loops can be actually used to mess around with other types of data structures that are in Python, such as lists and dictionaries. But because I've not really gone into lists and dictionaries yet, I'm not going to show you those things. Okay, intentionally I'm not showing you those things. Okay, instead I can show you string manipulation using loops, and the way that works is you can print something like \n string manipulation using loops. Okay, then you can do something like you can create a string. Let's say it's brand. So the brand name is going to be Cybervidyapeeth Foundation. That's our full name, right? C capital, F capital. And now I want each and every single character to be individually picked out and printed. So I can do that by doing for I in brand. Okay, for I in brand, I am going to go inside this and just print I. Now the output of this is pretty much clear. It's going to just extract cyber space Cybervidyapeeth space foundation. So you can see it just printed out the entire word letter by letter. Okay, so this is another way you can loop through a text. Now you could have had anything in here. For example, we've been messing around with the word pizza. So say that I put in pizza in here and save this, and we get PIZZA. Okay, so that's one way of doing it. Another way of doing it is you can actually save it in a special kind of data structure. Every time the value of I comes, you append it to a special data structure. That is one way of doing it. For example, okay, there are some questions. First, let me answer the questions, then I'll show you guys the first array. Just give me a second. Okay, so it looks like some of you guys have confusion in how Python was able to iterate. Okay, I was not speaking, don't worry. Some of you have been writing no audio. I was not speaking. How in Python you can iterate through a word. Basically what you're doing is you're creating a for loop here. You're creating a temporary variable called I, which is a literal a literator, as the formal word for it goes. And then you're saying literate inside the variable brand, and every time you iterate, print whatever is in the iterator right now. So it actually picks out the entire string, one character by one character, and does processing on it. Now you could store it somewhere, very much so. So for example, just to give you guys a very simple example, give me a second. Yeah. So I'm still going to iterate. For example, we can do something like letters I. Okay, so first we need to declare that. So actually, let's go ahead and declare it first. So I can do an empty list first. Am I not audible? Many people are writing that, I'm not audible. If I'm not audible, please mention that, okay? I don't want people not being able to hear me. I'm just going to type pass in here first, make sure that, the program doesn't have any issues. It doesn't, perfect. Then instead of pass, I am going to go ahead and do letters dot append, and we are going to append I, and then save that, and then just run the program. Yes, it's working perfectly fine. So now that that works, you can actually go ahead and do print letters dot count, save and run. Okay, wait. So we can just wait. Okay, so count will take one argument, right? So what is it that we can, okay, so we can clear the list, we can append the list. It's interesting. I'll show you guys how the list looks when you try to print it. That is going to be interesting. Perfect. So let's go with that. So the first thing you need to know, so I'm going to put some comments at the top so it's easier for you all, is that arrays, okay, I repeat, so hear me out again, arrays do not exist in Python by default. This is the first thing you need to understand. Instead, we have lists. Okay, lists are usually more flexible than arrays. Here are okay. Lists have special keyword, special code you can run on them. Okay, These are the 4 lines you need to understand first. Arrays do not exist in Python by default. There are libraries you can use to import an array-like structure, but we're not going to talk about those right now. So if arrays do not exist, that means you need to use something else. Python has something called lists, and lists are usually more flexible than arrays, and lists have special code that you can run on them. So let's see example of all of this. Here I've created an empty list. This is how you define a list in Python. So here this is a empty list, okay, because inside the brackets we don't have anything. If we were to add, say, a comma space and then save this and run the program, we get a space pizza. Okay, so a pizza. So I created an empty list. I didn't add anything into the list, and a list is what? Basically a list. Okay, I guess that shouldn't be too hard for you to understand. A list is a list. It's literally how you would define a list in English, separated by commas. Now, what I were doing is that, while I'm iterating on the the identifier variable brand, and I'm picking out each letter here, I'm appending that letter. Remember, I was talking about some special code that they have. So here is a special code, also known as a method in Python, that is being run on letters, and the command is append or add to. So we are appending to the list. So initially, if we try to print the list before we run this code, so let me print the list here. Let me save and run the program again. Notice that initially the list is empty, right? And then it gets populated. And if you want to see it get populated in real time, then you can do print letters here and then just run the program. And boom. Now that's a diagram I like, huh? It looks amazing. So this is how, also can somebody quickly tell me why the last line got printed twice? Because we have the same command here and here. So now actually we don't need this, and we can run the program again, and now it's gonna be much more. Yeah, perfect. So this looks much better. So this is basically how the list is, appending data. Initially it's an empty list, then we add p, we pick out p, then we append I, then we append z, then we append z, then we append e. Okay, and then we exit the program because there's no code after line 17. So Python just is smart enough to know that we are done. So let's exit the program. You can always have exit functions that clearly exit and clean memory and stuff, but again, that's application development, not Python programming right now, pure Python programming. So we'll come to that later. So I'm not going into lists more. There are a few functions of lists that we'll have a look at towards the evening. Remember one thing, that in evening we will have a long class. Okay, so from 6 normal class. Okay, on Sundays we'll always have 2 sessions. Okay, one just like today in the morning, and then in the evening. So Sundays always 2 sessions, rest of the days only evening sessions. That's how it's going to work. Okay, times are fixed. You already know the timing: 6 6 6 6 for Monday to Saturday, and then for Sunday 12 to 1:30, and then you will have 6 to 10 for your evening. Okay, so that 6 to 10 is completely fixed, and sometimes it can even go more. It depends on what we are learning. So for example, today lists is actually going to take easily 4 hours to go through, and I'll be giving you guys a break in between of around 45 to 1 hour, 45 minutes to 1 hour, because I don't want your brains to explode with the information overload. So we'll go slow. I know how daunting it could be for a person who's coding for the first time to look at all this brackets and letters being stored into some magic words. It's completely fine. Okay, you're gonna do great. Just keep coding with me. Remember to write the same lines of code I'm writing and test it out. Okay, and make sure you follow everything line by line. Okay, that is very important, because if you mess up the indentation, so for example, Python requires 4 spaces, 1 2 3 4 4 spaces after any if statement or loop to properly execute anything inside that. So if you do not put the 4 spaces here properly and say you only have 3 spaces or 2 spaces, your this code, okay, is going to break. It's not going to work. For example, if I just do this, notice how there is a red line all across the board. Python is unable to understand what the hell did I just do. Okay, Python is like, dude, I don't know what you're smoking, but I'm not going with that. And if I run it, I'll actually get an indentation error, which is again a special type of error in Python. Remember, indentation in Python is supreme, not just syntax. Okay, so keep that in mind. I'm going to share the attendance sheet for the morning session. Give me 1 second. Yeah, the attendance session for the morning session has been pinned. Please go ahead and fill it up. I repeat, attendance session for the morning session, the afternoon session has been pinned. Morning and afternoon session has been pinned. Please go ahead and fill it up. After you fill up the session, we'll end the meet today here, and then evening 6 will start again, diving deep into lists and loops. Then we'll be diving into sets, dictionaries, one by one, we'll be looking at each structure. And we'll also be looking at the array structure, np.array. So yeah, there are multiple structures to go into. So, please go ahead and quickly just fill your attendance sheet. Students, please fill your the attendance sheet. I repeat, please fill the attendance sheet. The homework, repeat, the homework is to be submitted in the evening, not now. Okay, students, we'll end the meet here today. Thank you so much for joining us for this afternoon session. And I hope to see you guys for the evening session as well, where we dive deep into lists and the different methods and operations, as they're called, that you can perform on lists. Okay, so see you guys soon. Dhanyawad. Jai Hind.